Drake just dropped what many people are calling a direct video shot at JayZ, and the timing has the whole internet going crazy. The clip surfaced right in the middle of JayZ's own GQ interview blowing up online, and now everyone is trying to figure out what this really means and why it hit at that exact moment. So here's where it starts. Drake posted a video on Instagram, and within minutes it had the entire hip-hop world locked in and talking. Fans, blogs, and insiders all started dissecting every second of it like it was some hidden message aimed straight at JayZ. What really made it wild was the timing. The post landed just days after JayZ sat down for a rare and massive GQ cover story, nearly 8,000 words long for the April 2026 issue. In that interview, JayZ touched on everything. He spoke on the Kendrick Lamar and Drake drama, his legal battle, his legacy, his family, Rock Nation, and even the Super Bowl. He covered every angle, but right in the middle of all that, he brought up Drake in a way that had people talking. He didn't come at him directly, but instead spoke from a place that made it seem like he was above the whole situation. As JayZ put it, they drag everybody in it, like everyone's part of this conspiracy to undermine Drake, I guess. Then JayZ followed it up with the line that instantly exploded across social media. He said, "I'm JayZ." That quote went viral almost immediately, and people started reading into it from every possible angle. On the surface, it could sound like a simple brush-off, like he was shutting the whole conversation down. But from Drake's side, and from people close to his camp, those words seemed to hit a lot differently. To them, it wasn't just a casual comment. It came from someone Drake reportedly felt had been moving behind the scenes over the past 2 years in ways that may have hurt his momentum and public image. That's why the reaction to it became so intense online. And Drake responded in the way people have come to expect from him. He didn't release a press statement, he didn't jump on a podcast, he didn't slip in coded lines on a loose track. Instead, he posted a video, and that video is exactly what has the internet in chaos right now. To really understand why that clip hit so hard, you have to look at the full history between Drake and JayZ, because this didn't just start in 2026, it didn't even begin in 2024. This story stretches all the way back to 2009. Back then, things actually started on a strong note. JayZ brought the Toronto rapper in for a guest appearance on the hook of Off That from the Blueprint 3, just 6 months after Drake's breakout mixtape So Far Gone changed everything for him. That moment was absolutely massive. For a young artist from Toronto who was still making the jump from acting on a Canadian TV show into the rap world, getting that call from JayZ meant everything. This wasn't just another feature opportunity, it was the ultimate cosign from the man many saw as having dominated hip-hop for an entire decade. In classic JayZ style, he gave the rising star a major platform, and Drake took that moment and ran with it. It was the kind of industry stamp that could change a career overnight, and for Drake, it helped push his rise to a new level. Then, by 2010, Drake returned the favor in a big way. He brought JayZ onto his debut album Thank Me Later for the track Light Up. That record gave Drake a chance to really show off his pen, going bar for bar alongside Jay's legendary wordplay, and fans loved every second of it. Jay didn't just show up and coast through the verse either. He delivered lines that felt almost like advice set to music. It had the energy of a mentor speaking directly to someone next in line, laying out what the climb to the top really looks like, what it demands, and the pressure that comes with it. For a while, that was the dynamic, the veteran guiding the protege and the younger star showing respect to the legend. But when two major names are involved, things rarely stay simple for long. By 2011, the vibe started to change, and Drake was beginning to position himself as the next king of rap. He started dropping references, some subtle, some impossible to miss, that made it clear he was aiming for the throne. And what made it even more intense was the timing. This was the exact same summer JayZ and Kanye West released Watch the Throne, a title that already carried huge meaning in the culture. That timing did not go unnoticed by fans or the industry. Whether Drake meant it directly or not, the message people took from it was loud and clear. The era of JayZ's dominance might be fading, and a new era was beginning with Drake at the center of it. Jay definitely seemed to take notice. What began as a promising connection through Off That and later Light Up slowly shifted into something much more complicated. From that point on, the relationship felt stuck in a strange middle ground, publicly respectful, but underneath it all, highly competitive. At times, it even turned openly tense, with both sides speaking through coded lines and subtle messages in the way only hip-hop rivalries seem to unfold. It became less about direct confrontation and more about positioning, image, and status. And that's really what made this rivalry so fascinating. It was never only about the music. It was about power, influence, and who gets to stand at the top of the culture. Drake wasn't just chasing success, he was chasing history. He wanted to be seen as the most successful rapper ever. And for the first time in a long time, JayZ was looking at someone who could realistically make that argument. Not because Drake was seen as the stronger lyricist, that was never really the debate. The real conversation was about something else entirely. Drake had reached a level JayZ never did in one specific lane. He became the most commercially dominant artist of the streaming era, period. That kind of success changed the conversation completely. JayZ had built his image around being the best at everything he touched, so seeing another artist break records and dominate on that scale naturally made the comparison impossible to ignore. Then the subliminal tension started building even more. In 2013, Jay gave Drake 2 a cappella verses that later became part of Pound Cake on Nothing Was the Same. According to Drake, those verses came from Jay's Magna Carta Holy Grail sessions, which made it feel like a rare and major gesture from one of rap's biggest names. But even that collaboration seemed to carry a little edge. Jay's verse had lines that fans interpreted in different ways. Some heard it as a veteran giving game to the next generation, while others felt it sounded more like a champion reminding a challenger exactly who was still on top. Then by 2014, the tension seemed to rise again. Drake sat down with Rolling Stone and made comments dismissing JayZ's art-inspired rap style, describing the whole rap meets art world image as corny. That line instantly got people talking and added even more heat to the growing rivalry. Jay didn't stay silent for long. He responded with a freestyle, and the verse was sharp, direct, and impossible to miss. The message many fans took from it was clear. You can say what you want, but I actually built and own the world you're rapping about. That only added more tension to the already complicated relationship between the two. And this back-and-forth energy kept going for years. In 2016, JayZ and Kanye both appeared on Drake's Pop Style, which initially looked like a huge moment, but when views finally dropped, both of their verses were gone, and that instantly set off speculation. Drake later addressed it in his interview with Zane Lowe, but the explanation left a lot of people unconvinced. Fans picked up on the awkward tone, the careful wording, and the uneasy body language, which only made it seem like something bigger had happened behind the scenes. Almost nobody bought the official line that it was simply a creative decision. The general feeling was that things between Jay and Drake had become noticeably cold. Then came Jay's 4.44 in 2017, and once again listeners started reading certain lines as more subliminal shots. The rivalry narrative only grew stronger from there. And when Jay brought his tour to Toronto, things got even more interesting. He performed flipped versions of Drake's Know Yourself and KMT with gigs right there on Drake's home turf. Some people saw it as respect and a salute to the city, while others looked at it as a bold power move meant to remind everyone who still held influence. Then in 2018, things seemed to take a major turn. JayZ and Kanye both publicly reconciled, and for a moment it looked like the tension had finally been put to rest. Drake brought Jay onto the track Talk Up from Scorpion, and fans immediately saw it as a sign that the two had moved past the years of quiet rivalry. The moment got even bigger when footage started circulating online of the two rap heavyweights embracing and posing for photos at the On the Run 2 tour stop in Detroit. That image alone had social media going wild, with many people calling it one of the biggest peace moments in hip-hop at the time. And the story behind how Jay's verse came together made it even intense. Jay was on tour with Beyoncé and planned to record his part right after the show at the venue itself. To make it happen, his longtime engineer, Young Guru, reportedly had to put together a makeshift studio on the spot. That's how last minute it was. The verse was then sent over to Drake's producer, Noah 40 Shabib, through a tethered phone signal because the venue's internet had already gone down. The turnaround was incredibly tight, which showed just how much effort went into making that collaboration happen. For a while, it really seemed like whatever issues existed had been buried for good. But then 2024 happened and everything changed. Once the Kendrick Lamar and Drake conflict erupted, it quickly grew beyond just those two names and pulled in a much bigger conversation. It didn't stay contained for long. The situation quickly pulled in nearly every major figure in hip-hop. People started choosing sides, alliances began forming, and careers seemed to shift around the fallout. What started as one conflict suddenly felt like a culture-wide divide. And somehow, whether intentionally or not, JayZ ended up right in the middle of that storm. With Roc Nation connected to the NFL's live music strategy since 2019, a lot of eyes turned toward him when Kendrick Lamar was selected as the Super Bowl headliner. That decision alone sparked huge conversation. Kendrick was already a Grammy-winning giant in rap, but at the same time he was also in the middle of a very public conflict with Drake. To many watching from the outside, the timing looked incredibly calculated. Some people interpreted it as Jay using his influence to place Drake's biggest rival on one of the largest stages in American entertainment at the exact moment tensions were already at their peak. That perception spread fast online, and Drake's camp was reportedly not quiet about how it looked. Before long, people started building narratives around Jay's alignment with Kendrick, with some believing it reflected deeper industry tensions involving Drake. The theories multiplied, the conversation intensified, and Drake, already in the middle of one of the biggest battles of his career, began to seem like he was up against more than just one opponent. To many fans, it started to feel like the entire industry was closing in, with JayZ seen as a powerful figure somewhere at the center of that perception. Then another theory started making rounds, and this one brought Beyoncé into the conversation. Podcast host Joe Budden raised a highly provocative claim, suggesting that part of Jay's distance from Drake might have been tied to something much more personal. According to that theory, Drake had reportedly worked on Beyoncé's house-inspired project, and then later released his own house-influenced album before hers dropped. In other words, the claim was that Drake may have taken ideas or creative direction from that collaboration, applied it to his own project, and put it out first, beating her to the moment. If that were true, many people felt it would be the kind of thing JayZ could take extremely seriously. He has long been seen as highly protective of his family, and especially of Beyoncé's career, so it added even more fuel to the growing tension people believed existed between the two camps. Budden also pushed the conversation further with another major allegation. He suggested there may have been a behind-the-scenes meeting that affected Lil Wayne's chances of performing at the Super Bowl. If accurate, that would have implied JayZ used his industry influence in a way that directly impacted Lil Wayne's mentor, which only made the narrative even more explosive. By the time we reach the GQ interview in March 2026, there is clearly a massive amount of history, tension, and speculation surrounding these two names. Years of collaborations, rivalry talk, and industry politics had all built up into one huge storyline. And to his credit, JayZ doesn't seem to avoid the conversation. He sits down with GQ editor Fraser Tharp for 2 separate sessions in January 2026, totaling around 4 hours of discussion. The interview itself is broad, detailed, and packed with moments that immediately got people talking. He also opened up about the now dismissed sexual assault lawsuit, and the way he described it was intense. JayZ said, "That whole lawsuit thing, that shit took a lot out of me. I was angry. I haven't been that angry in a long time." He made it clear the experience hit him hard on a personal level and carried a huge emotional weight. He went on to talk about how deeply the public accusations affected him, and even shared that he told Beyoncé he could not settle the case. As he put it, "It ain't in my DNA," a line that instantly caught attention and started circulating online. The interview wasn't only about controversy, though. Jay also spoke about his daughter Blue Ivy and her musical talent, giving a more personal look into his family life and legacy. Then the conversation shifted to the Kendrick Lamar and Drake conflict, and this is where things really got people talking. The interviewer brought up Jay's legendary early 2000s feud with Nas, calling it one of the biggest rap beefs the genre had ever seen. But Jay quickly jumped in with a line that immediately went viral. He said, "Well, until now." That one sentence was huge. It was JayZ publicly acknowledging that what happened between Kendrick and Drake had become even bigger than his own historic battle with Nas. Coming from someone who lived through one of hip-hop's most iconic rivalries, that statement carried serious weight. When asked directly about his role in Kendrick being chosen for the Super Bowl, Jay was blunt and straightforward. He said he picked the artist who was having a monster year and insisted it had nothing to do with the ongoing feud. He also pushed back hard against the conspiracy theories, saying it couldn't be that these guys just don't like each other, while comparing it to how his own issue with Nas had been building behind the scenes long before it ever became public. And that's what makes this entire situation so explosive. What started as quiet tension between two of the biggest names in hip-hop has now turned into a story filled with history, power, rivalry, and timing that feels almost impossible to ignore. From early collaborations to years of subliminal tension, and now this latest moment, it's clear that every move is being watched and every word is being analyzed. The big question now is what happens next. Was this just another calculated move in a long-running power struggle? Or is this the start of an even bigger fallout between Drake and JayZ? One thing is certain, the internet is not done talking about this, and neither is the culture. What do you think really happened here? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this conversation is far from over. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who follows hip-hop news, and subscribe to the channel for more updates, drama, and deep dives into the biggest stories in the culture. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one.